Connor McDavid is a generational talent, a player who doesn't just dominate the game, he bends it to his will. He collects trophies, racks up points at a pace we haven't seen in decades, and makes even the most skilled defensemen look like amateurs. His highlight reels are endless, his speed unmatched, and his vision otherworldly. He's the kind of player fans will one day tell their kids they were lucky to watch in real time. And yet, as brilliant as his career has been, there's one thing that continues to hang over him like a shadow: the Stanley Cup, the one trophy that truly defines hockey greatness. McDavid has done everything in his power to drag the Edmonton Oilers forward, but season after season, something slips through their fingers. Now the stakes are higher than ever. McDavid is in his prime, his contract extension looms, and every year that passes is one less chance to cement his legacy. The Oilers know the clock is ticking, not just on their cup window, but on the way Connor McDavid will be remembered in the history of the sport. But how did we get here, and what comes next? Let's start with the obvious. Connor McDavid isn't just good, he's historically good. Over the last 4 seasons, he's been nothing short of unstoppable. More than 500 points in just 300 games, 2 Hart trophies as league MVP, multiple Art Ross scoring titles, a Rocket Richard for leading the league in goals, and a Ted Lindsay Award, voted on by his fellow players as the most outstanding in the league. This isn't just dominance. This is the kind of production reserved for the legends of the sport. Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, players whose careers are spoken about with awe. McDavid has forced himself into that conversation while still being in the middle of his prime. And this dominance hasn't been limited to the regular season. In the playoffs, when the pressure is at its highest, McDavid has been even better. Across 2 deep postseason runs, he piled up 75 points in just 47 games, numbers that don't even seem real. He became one of the only players in NHL history to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, playoff MVP, while being on the losing side. That's how undeniable he's been. But as brilliant as his performances have been, there's still one question fans can't escape. If McDavid is this unstoppable, why haven't the Oilers been able to win it all? The answer, at least in recent years, has been painted in red, blue, and gold: the Florida Panthers. For 2 seasons in a row, Edmonton's dreams have been crushed by the same team. Twice they reached the Stanley Cup final, and twice Florida slammed the door in their face. The Panthers weren't just another opponent, they became the one team that found a way to slow down McDavid's madness. And that's the cruel irony. In those series, McDavid wasn't bad, far from it. He was spectacular, putting up points at will and dragging his team along with him. But Florida's depth, physicality, and ability to shut down Edmonton's secondary pieces proved too much. In the end, McDavid was left standing on the ice watching another team celebrate the trophy he spent his career chasing. For the Oilers, these defeats cut deeper than most, because this wasn't a team that got lucky just to make it. This was a team built around 2 of the best players in the world, a team that felt like it was destined to finally break through. And yet twice in a row, Florida reminded them that hockey is never about one player, even if that player is Connor McDavid. But these weren't just heartbreaking losses. They also set up the biggest storyline of McDavid's career: his looming contract decision. Here's where the tension rises. McDavid has just 1 year left on his current deal, and while nobody really believes he wants to leave Edmonton, the uncertainty has fueled speculation. Could McDavid actually test the open market? Would he chase a cup somewhere else? Back in June, when the Oilers' season ended in disappointment once again, the idea didn't feel far-fetched. The thought of McDavid pulling a LeBron James, leaving for greener pastures to finally win it all, became more than just fan chatter. It was a real possibility, but as the dust settled, reports started surfacing that quieted those rumors. Insiders like Elliot Friedman and Frank Saravalli suggested that McDavid wasn't going anywhere, at least not yet. In fact, they hinted that talks about an extension could begin before the season even started, a deal that would almost certainly make him the highest paid player in hockey history. And that's where things get interesting, because it's not just about whether McDavid stays in Edmonton, it's about how he stays. Does he sign a massive long-term contract that locks him in for most of his career? Or does he take the shorter-term route, like Austin Matthews, setting himself up for another payday in a few years when the salary cap rises? Both options are on the table, but each path leads the Oilers down a very different road. Let's break down the numbers. If McDavid signs for the rumored $16 to $17.5 million per season, that instantly puts Edmonton in uncharted territory. Combine that with Leon Draisaitl's $14 million contract, Evan Bouchard's new $10.5 million deal, and Darnell Nurse's massive $9.25 million cap hit, and you're looking at nearly half the team's payroll tied up in just 4 players. Almost 50% of the cap gone before you've even filled out the rest of the roster. And while that sounds extreme, it's not completely unprecedented. Just ask the Toronto Maple Leafs, who built their roster around big money stars like Matthews, Marner, Tavares, and Nylander. For years, Toronto has been criticized for being too top-heavy, too inflexible, and too thin when it matters most. Their repeated playoff disappointments have become a cautionary tale for other franchises. The Oilers now find themselves staring at the same problem. Yes, having McDavid and Draisaitl makes them arguably the most dangerous 1-2 punch in hockey, but hockey is a team sport, and when you pour this much money into the very top, you run the risk of everything else collapsing underneath. The real question isn't whether McDavid deserves the money. Of course he does. It's whether Edmonton can survive paying him what he's worth. Nowhere is this problem clearer than in net. Goaltending has been Edmonton's Achilles heel for McDavid's entire career. Year after year, the Oilers roll into the playoffs with question marks in goal, and year after year, it costs them. It's not like options weren't available. Darcy Kuemper, a cup-winning goaltender, was on the market. Linus Ullmark, a Vezina winner, was available. John Gibson was openly on the trade block. Even names like Jacob Markstrom and Mackenzie Blackwood were swirling in rumors. And yet, time after time, Edmonton stood pat. Why? Because when you're already paying huge money to your stars, committing big dollars to a goalie feels impossible. Instead, they've rolled with Stuart Skinner, a talented netminder, sure, but inconsistent to the point of frustration. Some nights, he looks like the answer. Other nights, he's a glaring reminder of what Edmonton has refused to fix. And when your entire cup window rests on the shoulders of one player, gambling on shaky goaltending isn't just risky, it's reckless. Goaltending is one thing, but the Oilers' problems go deeper than that. Look at their roster construction. Nurse's contract stretches into 2030 at a number that most analysts already call an overpay. Zach Hyman is a heart and soul player, but at $5.5 million until he's 36, there's a real risk of decline. Even their recent moves like the Trent Frederick signing have raised eyebrows. And then there's the bottom 6. A team can't win a cup with just 2 players. Look no further than Florida this year. They didn't just beat Edmonton with stars. They beat them with depth, balanced lines, defensive responsibility, and role players stepping up in crucial moments. That's where Edmonton consistently comes up short. McDavid and Draisaitl do their part, more than their part really, but when the rest of the roster falters, their brilliance isn't enough. And this is exactly why McDavid's contract is about so much more than just dollars. It's about what Edmonton can actually build around him, because without depth, even the greatest player in the world can't finish the job. So here we are, 2 futures, 1 decision. If McDavid signs a manageable deal, maybe slightly below his absolute market value, Edmonton has a chance. They'll have the flexibility to bring in reliable secondary scorers, a real goaltender, and enough depth to compete with teams like Florida, Vegas, or Colorado. The cup window stays open, and McDavid has the supporting cast he deserves. But if he goes for the maximum, if he pushes north of $17 or $18 million a year, the Oilers are in trouble. They'll be forced to patch holes with bargain contracts, hope prospects develop faster than expected, and rely on an aging core to do the heavy lifting. It's not impossible to win that way, but the margin for error shrinks dramatically. The truth is simple: hockey is a team game, and no matter how brilliant McDavid and Draisaitl are, they cannot win it alone. The Oilers have to decide if they're building a dynasty or just wasting the prime of one of the greatest players we've ever seen. This is more than just another contract negotiation. This is the decision that will define the Edmonton Oilers for the next decade. Do they build a balanced roster capable of going toe-to-toe with the deepest teams in the league? Or do they become a top-heavy powerhouse that shines in the regular season but fades when the playoffs demand more? For McDavid, this isn't just about money. It's about his legacy. Every season that passes is one less shot at the cup. Every contract signed shapes the narrative of his career. The clock is ticking, and how this plays out won't just define the Oilers' future. It will decide how hockey remembers Connor McDavid. So what do you think? Should McDavid take less to help his team, or should he push for every dollar he deserves? Let me know in the comments where you stand, because this decision isn't just the biggest of his career, it might be the biggest in NHL history.